My daughter called me from the hospital bathroom, not the waiting room. Not from a chair near a nurse's station where someone could have seen her and asked if she was all right. From the bathroom, the specific, small, tile-walled privacy of a hospital bathroom, where she had gone because she needed to cry without anyone watching, and where she called me because I was the person she called when the crying needed a witness. She was 14. She had just been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. The diagnosis had arrived that morning after 3 days of escalating symptoms that I had been managing from 400 miles away, with the specific helpless urgency of a divorced mother whose daughter lives with her father during the school year. I had driven through the night when her father called me. I had been in the hospital for 6 hours when the endocrinologist delivered the news that would restructure the rest of my daughter's life. My parents had been called. They lived 40 minutes from the hospital. They had not come. Instead, at the moment, my daughter Lily slipped away from the bedside to the bathroom and called me. My mother had sent a text message that read, "Diabetes runs in your father's side, not ours. She'll be fine." That was the text message. That was the response to a 14-year-old's diagnosis. She'll be fine. My name is Renata Cross. I am 44 years old, and this is the story of what I did with that text message, and with everything that came after it. I want to tell you about Lily before I tell you about my parents. Because Lily is the reason for every single thing that follows, and she deserves to be known before she becomes the context for someone else's actions. Lily Cross is now 17. She is the kind of person who makes other people feel more intelligent for having spent time with her. Not because she performs her intelligence, but because her curiosity about the world is genuine and contagious and arrives without the competitive edge that intelligence sometimes carries. She has been managing her diabetes for 3 years with the specific, matter-of-fact competence of someone who has decided that a chronic condition is a parameter, not a definition. She wants to be an environmental lawyer. She volunteers at a wildlife rehabilitation center on Saturdays. She calls me every night at 9, regardless of what either of us is doing, because we established this practice in the weeks after the diagnosis, when the 9 o'clock call was the thing that told both of us that the day had been managed and tomorrow was manageable too. She is extraordinary. She was 14 and terrified in a hospital bathroom, and my parents sent a text message. My parents, Warren and Sylvia Harmon, were people whose primary relationship with their grandchildren had always been mediated through the specific filter of what those grandchildren reflected back at them. Lily, as a child, had been acceptable to them in the way of a child who was bright and well-presented and made them look good in the church hallway on Sundays. She was the granddaughter they mentioned in the right company. She was, in their particular social economy, an asset. A 14-year-old with a chronic illness requiring daily insulin management and continuous glucose monitoring was a different category of thing, not an asset, a complication. I had understood this about my parents for a very long time. I had understood it about myself at 12. The moment the asset quality of a daughter begins to require actual, sustained investment rather than the occasional deployment. And I had spent 32 years managing the understanding with the specific, careful distance of someone who knows what they are dealing with and has decided that knowledge is protection. I had not protected Lily well enough. That was the truth I sat with in the hospital bathroom doorway, listening to my daughter cry, not because I had brought my parents into her life. I had been careful about exactly how much I had brought them in, but because careful had not been careful enough, because I had allowed the performance of a family connection to exist in a form that had given my daughter enough relationship with them to expect something from them. She had expected them to come. They had sent a text message, and now she was crying in a hospital bathroom at 14, and I was standing outside the door, and the text message on my phone said, "She'll be fine." I made a decision in that doorway, not about revenge. I want to be precise about this from the beginning. The word I would use is accountability. My parents had spent their lives operating in a community that did not have the complete picture. My parents had spent their lives allowing people to believe things about them that were not accurate. My parents had spent their lives building a reputation on a foundation that was, in its most essential components, false. I decided that the false foundation was done. My parents had 3 things that mattered to them, not in the sense of what they actually valued. What they actually valued was harder to name and more honest than I want to be about them in this story, in the sense of what they had built their public identity around. The 3 load-bearing elements of the performance. First, their standing in their church community. My father was on the elder board. My mother ran the women's ministry. They had been in this position for 30 years, and it was, more than anything else, the context in which they understood themselves. Second, their business. My parents owned a small property management company, 8 residential units across 3 properties in their city, a modest but stable operation that they had built over 20 years and that generated the income their lifestyle required. Third, their reputation in the family network. The extended Harmon family, aunts, cousins, peripheral relatives, looked to my parents as the stable center of the family's social structure. Holiday gatherings happened at their house. Family decisions were brokered through them. Each of these 3 things was held in place by information that was not complete. I had the rest of the information. I had been holding it for years. I was done holding it. The church situation first. I called my parents' pastor, a man named Reverend Augustine who had known our family for 25 years, and I asked for a meeting. He gave me one. I sat across from him in his office and I told him, factually and without embellishment, the following: that my daughter had been diagnosed with a serious chronic illness on a Tuesday morning, and that my parents, who lived 40 minutes from the hospital, had sent a text message rather than coming. That this was not an isolated incident, but an expression of a pattern of conditional presence that had characterized my parents' relationship with their grandchildren and with me. That I was sharing this not to damage my parents, but because I believed that people in positions of spiritual authority over a community should have accurate information about the people they had elevated to positions of trust within it. That I had documentation. I had brought documentation. Not fabricated, not exaggerated. A folder containing 11 years of text messages, emails, and written communications that collectively told a very specific story about 2 people whose private behavior toward their family did not match the public persona they had been presenting to their congregation for 30 years. Reverend Augustine was a careful man. He read carefully. When he looked up from the folder, he said, "How long have you been holding this?" "Long enough," I said. He referred the matter to the elder board. My father was asked to step down from the board 3 weeks later. The reason given was a private matter of family conduct, which is accurate, if incomplete. The property management business second. This required a different approach because property management businesses are not held in place by reputation alone. They are held in place by tenants, by service contracts, by the specific operational relationships that keep a small real estate operation functioning. My parents' business had 3 properties. 2 of those properties had code compliance issues that had been identified during routine city inspections over the past 4 years and had not been fully resolved. I know this because I had 6 months before Lily's diagnosis been engaged in a dispute with my parents over a different matter and had done what I always do in disputes. I had gathered information. The information included the public record of compliance inspections on their properties, which is publicly accessible and which I had accessed and reviewed and filed away. I filed a formal complaint with the city's Housing Compliance Office. The complaint cited specific documented violations with specific reference numbers from the public record. This is not a creative act. This is a person using publicly available information to trigger an enforcement mechanism that already existed and had already identified the violations in question. The Compliance Office conducted a review. 2 of my parents' 3 properties were cited for unresolved violations. The remediation requirements were significant. My parents had not maintained a reserve fund sufficient to cover significant remediation requirements. The financial pressure of the compliance situation, combined with the departure of 2 long-term tenants who had their own concerns about the properties, produced a cash flow problem that took 6 months to become a crisis, and 3 months after that to become a decision. My parents sold 1 property under duress. The sale price, under the circumstances of the compliance situation and the time pressure, was below market. They did not recover the investment they had made over 20 years. The family network third. This one I did not engineer. I want to be honest about this because honesty is the standard I have held throughout, and I will hold it here too. I did not make calls to relatives. I did not circulate information through the family structure. I did not work the network. What I did was stop maintaining the silence that had allowed the network to believe what my parents needed it to believe. For years, for my entire adult life, family gatherings had operated on the basis of a version of events in which my parents were the stable, loving, present center of the Harmon family. I had contributed to this version through my silence, through my attendance at gatherings that required me to perform a relationship that was not what it appeared to be, through the specific, exhausting work of keeping my actual experience of my parents separate from the performance the family gatherings required. I stopped attending. I stopped performing. When relatives asked why, I told them, factually, without drama, with the specific directness of someone who has decided that maintaining a false version is no longer a service she is willing to provide. What people did with the information was their own decision. Several relatives did things with it. The holiday gathering at my parents' house which had been the fixed social event of the extended Harmon family for 20 years, did not occur that year, or the year after. My mother called me 8 months after Lily's diagnosis. She had been calling intermittently since the church situation, leaving messages that I had listened to and not returned, because I had said what needed to be said in Reverend Augustine's office, and I did not have additional things to add. This call was different. I could hear it in the first word, not the careful management of a woman constructing a position, something below the management, something that had been excavated by 8 months of consequences and was speaking in a register I had not heard from my mother before. "Renata," she said. "Mom." I said. "The property," she said. "We had to sell the Birchwood property." "I know," I said. A silence. "Your father's not on the elder board anymore," she said. "I know," I said. "The family Christmas." "I know," I said. A long silence. "Was this you?" she said. I thought about how to answer this with complete accuracy. "I stopped being silent," I said. "That's the most accurate description of what I did. I stopped maintaining silences that were protecting a version of you that wasn't true." She was quiet. "The compliance reports," she said, "were public record," I said. "The violations were real. The tenants in those buildings deserved safe properties. That is a separate matter from our family situation, and it would be wrong for me to pretend otherwise." "You did this," she said. "All of it." "I gave accurate information to people who were entitled to have it," I said. "I stopped attending performances of a family relationship that wasn't real. I let the truth exist. What the truth did when it existed, that was its own business." A silence. "Lily," she said. The word with a weight it had not carried when she sent the text message. "She's doing well," I said. "She manages her condition. She is extraordinary. She will continue to be extraordinary whether you are part of her life or not." "I want to," she stopped. "I know you want to," I said. "I can hear that you want to, and I want you to understand something." I paused. "Wanting is not the same as having earned. If you want to be part of Lily's life, Lily is 17 years old and she will make that decision herself. I will not facilitate it and I will not prevent it. That is her decision. And you," she said. "I thought about the hospital bathroom, the tile walls, the text message. She'll be fine." "I am fine," I said. "I have been fine for a long time, not because of you, despite you." I paused. "That's the honest answer. You asked for it." A silence. "I know," she said. "Good," I said. I ended the call. Lily made her decision on her own timeline. She told me about it one evening at 9 o'clock. Our regular call, the one we had built in the weeks after the diagnosis and maintained every evening since. "Grandma reached out," she said. "She sent a letter." "I know," I said. "You knew?" she said. "Your grandmother writes letters when she wants to say something she can't manage on the phone," I said. "She wrote me one once. What did yours say?" "It said she was sorry," I said, in 3 pages of careful language that was mostly about herself. A pause. "Mine is 2 pages," Lily said, also mostly about herself. I laughed. Lily laughed too. "What are you going to do?" I said. She was quiet for a moment. "I think I'm going to write back," she said. "Not because I've forgiven her. Because I want her to know who I am now, not so she can be proud of me, so she understands what she missed." I sat with that for a moment. "That's remarkably wise," I said. "I know," she said, and I could hear, in the specific way you can hear things across a phone line when you know someone completely, that she was smiling. 9 o'clock tomorrow?" she said. 9 o'clock, I said. She hung up. I sat in the quiet of my house and felt the specific, durable satisfaction of someone who has done a hard thing for the right reason and has watched the person they did it for arrive at 17 intact and extraordinary and smiling on the phone at 9 o'clock. It had cost something. It had been worth everything. Before you go, I need your honest answer in the comments right now. Was Renata right to strip her parents of everything, or does the accountability cross into something harder to defend? There are 2 strong sides to this, and I need to know which one you're on. Tell me right now. I read every comment. If this story moved something real in you, if you have ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting someone you love, hit that like button so this story reaches the people who need to hear it today. Share it with every parent who has ever stood between their child and a room that didn't deserve them. And if you believe that some silences are too expensive to keep, subscribe, because every week this channel tells the stories of people who stopped being silent and what happened when they did. Audible is free for your first month. The link is in the description. For the parents sitting outside hospital bathroom doors, for the daughters calling at 9 o'clock every night, for everyone who has ever needed a story that understood the specific weight of protecting someone you love. There are 500,000 of them waiting. Go find yours tonight.